Let me take a minute to there we go, post it out to my audience. So I just kind of wanted to talk about AI and some of my thoughts about that with everything going on with like Nano Banana and just the different types of content that have come out and the different methods and the different uses of it. And kind of feel like one of the things I need to point out is to go into your Gmail, into your settings, and turn off the smart features because they're using that to monitor your emails and see what's in there and use that to improve their language models. And it's kind of concerning to me how much data we're willing to give up at the expense of convenience, at the expense of sometimes laziness. And convenience and laziness can quite often be mistaken. And also how inaccurate, if you've used like and done a Google search, just pay attention to what you're doing, pay attention to the results, do your own research, and don't just take what AI says and repost it and trust it. I think we're too easy to trust technology in these days, to trust the data we get. I remember the days when Wikipedia people would go there and it's like, okay, that's the starting point, but then you got to find your sources. And now Wikipedia is more accurate than some of the other options we have out there. You know, getting to the point where we can't really trust what's in front of our eyes and what we see as far as the content that's being created, as far as the images that are being uploaded, as far as music that's being created. And, just to, look at it from a perspective of, are we going to get to the point where unless we really meet somebody in person, we're not going to even know what's real? And I don't feel like that's something that we should all be kind of happy about. Take a minute to say hi to people in the chat. Hi, Jimmy Fire Dragon. How are you? Um, you know, when I started this channel in 2018, and then we went through the pandemic and we went through like everybody doing these live streams and some collaborations, and I did interviews and things like that and talking to real people and actually getting to know people. And now there's people that are interacting with ChatGPT rather than calling a therapist, or they're doing Google searches instead of going to their doctor. And it's kind of concerning to me because people are just seeing results and going, oh, this must be what I have. And then they could reach out to their doctor and say, hey, I Googled this or that. Or they're doing virtual appointments and then they're coming in with all this preconceived data and these preconceived notions that that's what they have or that's what's going on. And it's really concerning how instead of trusting somebody who's a professional, we're willing to trust software. So, that's just kind of my thoughts on that, as well as seeing how it can be destructive for, real artists out there, people that take their time to be creative and create things with their experience, with their knowledge, with their expertise, versus people who just hop on and use some sort of AI to generate it. There's also consideration and concern for like our children in the future and how, people are posting photos of their family and stuff like that, not really thinking about how, because these companies like Google will use images from Google Photos or things from email, and like even Instagram has been caught up in some kind of drama with things, and Meta and Facebook is just using stuff because they post it in the terms and services and say, okay, we can just use this. And then, your kid down the line doesn't realize that you've posted all these photos of him as a kid, and these companies can create like realistic aged versions of images, and social engineering and the information that you post, yeah, it's always being used, but it's just concerning as more of it, like there's no regulations on accuracy. So what can the companies make up about you, or what can they generate from your likeness without getting in trouble because there's not really anything that says, hey, we can't do this. the laws need to shift. We've gone from what I call, analog images and analog media to digital media, but there hasn't really been a shift in the regulations on this. There hasn't been really a concern of, oh, let's make sure that the people that are accessing this know that they're actually what they're giving up. Or, when you used to walk into a store and you go, okay, here's what is available, and other adult media is hidden in the background, and you had to prove your age. And now it's like, oh, everybody has access to everything, which is great when you're trying to get information out to people that's potentially life-saving, but it's devastating when there's concern as a parent where I have to like look at every little thing because stuff is getting through the loopholes. Stuff is getting out there to kids and not being necessarily regulated so much. If you think about like targeted advertising is a huge thing, and oh, you say I'm going to let my kid watch, some YouTube videos, and you put on age filters, and then they can't have access to um like Blippi on another level. Yeah, can't have access to understanding what's really being provided, and you got to sit and look over their shoulder, which is what you should be doing anyways. But then as they get a little older, it's like, okay, you want to provide education type material. My son's 7, and like I homeschooled him, and it was great to be able to look up math tutorials and learn about dinosaurs. And then there's games out there, and it's like, okay, but what if these games have interactions? What if these games are trying to sell products, or there's ad pop-ups, and it's like, okay, some of these don't even have an option to pay to block the ads. Like, I understand how we're sick of paying for subscriptions, but like the option of being able to pay to get rid of ads because maybe they're targeting your kid. Or at one point my son was clicking on stuff, and it's like, okay, I have it set up so he's got to come to me to approve installation of games and apps and stuff. But how annoying that can be. Or like if you approve it, and may approve installing anything for 15 minutes, or in-app purchases always have to be approved. My son had like 50 games on his phone all of a sudden because I switched from using an Android device to an iPhone, and so I just kind of was like, hey, you need to come to me, so this is what you need to do. And um you know do I like monkeys are fun. um so I think more of us need to focus on how well we protect our data, but also just other people's. You're posting photos of your family, or posting photos with your friends out there, but do you really think about like maybe they don't post to the public? I know lots of people that have private Instagram because that's what they use to post with their family, or they have Google Photos albums to share images. But then you go out with your friends, and you're, having a dinner, and you post the photos. Maybe it's at a bar, and then their job thinks, well, they were out drinking last night, but they weren't, and they've been sober for, they had a drinking problem, and then they've been sober for years. Or whatever the things that you portray with what you post without really the consent of the people that are involved can be an issue. And that's just things I'd like us to kind of think about when it comes to our interactions and our posts on social media, as far as like what we post, but also what we give up. As far as looking at terms and services, there's editing software that's out there that says, hey, what you post, we can, or what you create, we can use that in advertisements as examples of what people are making. Adobe did that, and it's like, okay, but is that opt in or opt out? And so some of this stuff is opt in, and it's a bit problematic because it really should be opt in, but a lot of it's opt out now. It's like, oh, this is just turned on by default. Um, that is such a weird thing to me. So, think about um, think about what you're doing when you're posting on social media. Think about the companies that you're supporting. Think about the technology that you use, what's really behind it. um, you know, Google and other companies say, hey, we're going to give you Gemini, or we're going to give you this feature for free, or we're going to give you the pro version, and then we're going to include this feature for free in the editing software. When in reality, down the line, after a year or so, they're going to take that away because they've already gotten all the data they need, and now it's a subscription. And within that subscription, they're providing features because they already got access for free, and so now they can charge for it. And it's kind of that initial hook. It's that, oh, we've provided all this for free. Um, think about like the games that you play with your friends, or the games that you let your kids play, and it's like at a certain point they can't play the game anymore, but they've already played so many levels that how do we really determine, um, you know, are you going to cut them off? Did you create a dopamine fix? The psychological effects that technology has on us. you know, um, if you think about, yeah, that's a cat. Friend's cat was trying to get in. She likes to climb up on your chest, and she was trying to get in my face. Um, you know, we're out here mapping our subconscious using complex diagram and intense introspection. It's true. Companies are out here, um, whenever you talk about a certain um, topic, and then all of a sudden you're on Instagram, or you're on Facebook, or you're on X, or you're on Threads, or you're on whatever, Amazon, and all of a sudden there's an advertisement for what you're talking about, when you don't really want to see advertisements for certain things. Or maybe it's, all of a sudden, instead of seeing all your friends in your feed, you're just seeing ads. So, it's kind of a weird day and age to live when you think about how really the product used to be what had to be sold, and now you're kind of the product. And realistically, that's given in services that we don't even necessarily think about. And I don't even think about how we went from the days where you used to pay for cable, and then people complained about how expensive it got, and now everything's separated. Same thing with, you used to be able to just think about editing your photos and posting them normal, and now AI is tuning things beyond reality. You take photos and your eyes are closed, or you're squinting or whatever, and you can put them together. And it's great, but is that really the memory you had? Sometimes it's better to just kind of keep the memory as though it happened and how it existed than to alter it. That's what I like about doing these live streams versus going in and doing edits, or when I post my shorts on here, and it's just quick thoughts. And a lot of my long form content, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing for that, and to see when I post shorts and long form content and when I go live. But a lot of my long form content is not really edited anymore. I just kind of, here's the product, here's my thoughts about it, here's how I've been using it. If you need a product to use in a similar way, go purchase it. If you're thinking about buying this product, here's my thoughts and opinions. Phone, case, chargers, whatever it is. Or here are my thoughts. And, what are your thoughts? Post those in the comments down below. Same thing with this, post in the chat. Please be appropriate. Please be kind to one another. You know, in a day and age where everybody has access to media and people are, our kids are dealing with being bullied at school for like what device they carry still, it's kind of stupid that this has become like such a sophomoric interaction with adults where it's like, oh, this is what you think? That's dumb. Or this is the phone you choose to carry? Well, why are you supporting this company? Because they've done this and that. It's like every company has made mistakes. I mean, I carry an iPhone, but I also and use an Apple Watch, but I also have um a OnePlus 13. It's almost always around me. Android devices. I love all technology, and I think we all should, and we should all appreciate it, but we should also really consider what we use on a daily basis in a majority of the things we do, and whether some of these technologies are really beneficial or they're just kind of in the background working and monitoring things and turning off like background refresh or background notifications and just having notifications on for the apps that we really need it for and location, setting it, for precision for your maps and some of that stuff. But like, why does Twitter or why does like my messaging app need my location or need my precise location? It doesn't. It doesn't need to know exactly where I live or the city I live in. It doesn't even really need to know beyond the country I live in or maybe the state, because there are some regulations in certain states that you have to really consider and think about. So for me, um, today I've just been really thinking about as the holidays come up and you're thinking about, oh, maybe you're going to get a family member a new device, or maybe you're helping your family out because you're kind of their technical customer support now. What features are you enabling for them? Are you helping them disable certain features? Are you helping them update their technology when they really need to? Or are you kind of pushing your own mindset on them because you understand the like safety and dangers of enabling certain features or disabling certain features, or the marketing? Or did the marketing get to you and you think, oh, this is the best device, but maybe it's not for them? And I think about that too. I'm using an iPhone Air to do this live stream, and I think about, okay, it's expensive and it's missing certain features, but maybe it's perfect for a certain family member. And why did I choose it? And those are the things that I can tell my audience. And like, okay, if my audience is looking for a device and because they're like me, it's perfect for them, but maybe they're not like me. Maybe there's somebody who really does need more options, more cameras, a bigger battery, because they're going to hold on to this device for many, 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 many years. And as the battery degrades, they still want to get stuff out of it. But maybe they're like me, who I just want something lighter. And I use the single camera because I'm basically taking photos of documents or like my wife and my son. And I'm not trying to take things from super far away. And I don't really need a super macro. So, that's the things to really think about. If you're new and you found this live stream, please consider subscribing down below. Give it a big thumbs up. I just wanted to take a little bit of time to talk. Um, Catch the replay. I intend on going live and just kind of talking about things more often. Also, just posting little clips of things as they kind of pop into mind, and more talking head content coming to the channel. Of course, if you have been around for a while, let me know in the comments. If you're new, post in the comment, new subscriber and why you subscribed. Please share this. Peace, love, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.